Good morning. Hello from Costa Rica. Once again, I'm live here from the office of Latitude 10 in Playa Junquial, Costa Rica. My name is Matt Rosensteel, and as always, I'm trying to bring you simple, straightforward information about the different aspects of living, working, relocating, or visiting Costa Rica. Today's Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there who's celebrating. Hopefully not everybody is in their office getting things done today, but I decided to take care of a few things I've been meaning to do. And one thing that I want to do is talk about a very frequently asked question for people who are considering coming down here, and probably the most boring thing that I could talk about on Thanksgiving Day, banking here in Costa Rica. It's a very complex subject because banking here is very different than in the US, Canada, Europe, other places. And I wanted to give some straightforward answers about the fundamentals of what it means to deal with Costa Rican banks. Today, if you have any questions about this information, you can email me at matt@cbtamarindo.com. Again, my name is Matt Rosensteel. I'm an agent with Coldwell Banker Tamarindo Realty. My wife and I co-own and operate Latitude 10 here in Playa Junquial. I'm broadcasting live from our office, which, by the way, is now going to be open 7 days a week for the coming high season, December, January, February, March, and April, going into 2019. So please come to our office. You can check us out by clicking on the point on Facebook, or you can find us on Google Maps. Without further ado, let's talk about banking in Costa Rica. Today I'm going to talk about 4 simple topics. First of all, accounts for foreigners. Can you get them? How? The paperwork you'll need, which all have confusing names and different places that you'll need to find them. Online banking, and finally, the financial profile system that the Costa Rican government uses for oversight of all bank accounts. Let's get started. Stop wasting time. Here in Costa Rica, you are allowed to open a bank account as a foreigner. In fact, in virtually every aspect of life, the Costa Rican government or Costa Rican institutions have made it as easy as possible for foreigners to do business, own property, etc., specifically because the country wants to motivate as much foreign investment as possible. However, there's an important caveat. Accounts for foreigners, depending on which bank you work with, will be different if you open an account in your personal name using your passport as the identification to open it versus opening up an account in the name of your corporation. Let's step back a second. So most people own property here through owning a corporation that in fact holds the title of that property in its name. There's an advantage to opening a bank account in the name of your corporation in that the corporation, as a nationally registered entity, actually usually has a broader range of rights or can access more services in the bank. It's been a while since Anne-Marie and I opened our accounts, but I do remember that very clearly for foreigners opening a bank account, the beginning monthly limit on transactions was much lower. If you're a foreigner opening an account, oftentimes the bank won't allow you to use online banking. They'll have restrictions on the transfers you can make to and from other accounts. And it can, in general, be sort of a junior account, whereas opening in the name of your corporation can allow you to do more things and have an account that's in the name of an established entity here in Costa Rica. Obviously, when you go to open an account, check up on all this and ask them that question as well. But in my experience, opening in the name of your corporation is going to give you a better bank account with more services that you can use. The most difficult task, and recently the reason I'm talking about banking today is the fact that friends recently brought up how frustrating it was to deal with the paperwork that you'll need. There are requirements that the bank representatives will give you, a pretty solid list of different documents that you're going to have to obtain to open your bank account. Whereas in the United States, it might be very simple to open a regular checking account, or in Canada, here you will have to present several things. If you're opening the bank account in the name of a corporation, as I previously mentioned, they're first going to want to see what's called a personería jurídica. A personería jurídica is essentially a list of the corporate officers that are in charge of your corporation and a description of their legal powers. So in getting this document, skipped ahead there, in getting the personería jurídica, you're essentially getting a certification that says, here's the board of directors and here's allowed to act on behalf of this corporation. This is a document that's available online for your corporation. If you have a property manager or a knowledgeable real estate agent who can help you, they're accessible to everybody through the National Registry, and it's a simple matter of paying $5 using a major credit card to go online and use the database to print out your personería jurídica. Next, the bank is almost definitely going to ask for some kind of one of two financial documents, the estados financieros or a flujo de caja. Estados financieros are essentially financial statements, and a flujo de caja is a projection of cash flow. The bank essentially will want to know how much money you expect to come into this account, when you expect that to come in, and they'll want to see any justification if you are expecting a huge amount of money to come into the account. So essentially, what you're going to have to do when they ask for one of these documents, if you're opening up the account in the name of your corporation, or if you're opening it up in your personal name, you might find that it's pretty illogical for them to ask you for financial statements or a cash flow projection when you haven't had any economic activity in Costa Rica yet. But essentially what you need to do to get either of these documents, depending on what they've requested, is go to a local certified public accountant, un contador or a contadora. There are lots of bilingual accountants here in the Guanacaste and throughout the country. And you can get either of these documents created essentially based on information that you give to the accountant. You can tell them, here's my projected cash flow, and they'll create a certified cash flow projection. Or you can give them information about the ins and outs of a business that you've been running, or the ins and outs of your personal financial transactions, and they'll put together a financial results, basically a profit and loss statement for you that shows what you need it to show. Essentially, they're looking to set you up in the system, both so that they know who is in charge of your corporation. In the case of a personería jurídica, again, you get that online or by visiting your lawyer. They can do it for you as well. And they're going to ask for some kind of financial documentation as well. Another thing that actually I didn't include in the list that's occurring to me now, they're also going to ask for, if you're, again, opening the account in the name of your corporation, the acta constitutiva, or the original charter for that corporation, in which for every Costa Rican corporation, even if you created it just to hold a property, there are the charter gives the bylaws, identifies the powers of the different board members, et cetera, just like the charter of a corporation in the US. And that document, the acta constitutiva, is another likely thing that they're going to request from you if you're opening the account in the name of a corporation. Online banking is not nearly as straightforward as it is in the US, based on my experience. I'd imagine it's not as straightforward as banking in Canada or Europe, but I've never had that experience. Essentially, when you initially set up your account, the online banking that normally comes with a checking account in most modern banks won't necessarily be included with your account. Instead, online banking is usually going to be something that you request while you're opening up your account. In order to get onto your online banking system, you will be given, and I don't have mine here right with me, but you'll be given a little electronic device called a token. The token is a little thing that you push to get codes. And in order to log on to online banking, you will need not just your username, which is going to be, in most banks' cases, the legal ID number of your corporation or your passport number. You're also going to need your regular password that you would need for an online banking account, and you're going to have that token. In the past, you had to wait, I think, up to 8 business days or a couple weeks in order to get that token delivered to your bank so that you could actually get online. I've heard that they're doing it instantaneously now, where the day you sign up for your account, you can solicit, request online banking, and they'll hand you your token headed out the door. Finally, one of the last topics I want to touch on, the financial profile and oversight system that the Costa Rican government uses. And this is perhaps one of the most notable differences between banking here in Costa Rica and other parts of the world, that the government has a strict control over bank accounts, in that, for example, when you open a checking account, you'll be assigned a financial profile based on those documents that we mentioned earlier. If you turn in a cash flow projection that shows you'll probably be getting $0 to $500 per month deposited into your account, then they'll give you a financial profile that essentially sets up a limit around that cash flow, likely to about $1,000 per month. If you ever start to exceed that limit, or if your financial profile changes, all of a sudden you decide to buy that house and you wire down money to your Costa Rica account, the bank officials are going to get in touch with you to notify you that you deviated from your financial profile, and that you'll need to do what is called an actualización de datos. Essentially, you have to update your information with the bank. This happens to virtually everyone I've spoken with at some point down here in Costa Rica, because most often when you open up an account, regardless of the financial profile that you tell them you want, they're going to give you a low financial profile as a security measure, and also because of the policies of most banks. That profile might be as little as $1,000 coming in or out of the account per month. That is your original financial profile. So essentially, the first time that you deviate from that $1,000, either in or out of your account, and the average over 6 months goes above it, the alarm bells will be set off in the bank's computers, and they'll be ringing you up to say, hey, you've brought down a lot more money than previously. We need to see a justification for this, where you essentially have to come in and provide evidence to justify that change in your financial profile. That evidence, once again, is going to be something you can get from a local certified public accountant here in Costa Rica. If you've worked with someone since day one that helped you set up the account, it can be extremely easy to knock on their door, set up an appointment, tell them the money you've received, bring proof to them as to why you've received it. If you're doing business here in Costa Rica, you'll provide receipts, other forms of financial documents, etc. And that certified public accountant will create the justification document that you need to take to the bank representatives to say, okay, here's the reason my financial profile suddenly jumped. Here's the document justifying that income, and what the bank employees will do at that point is increase your financial profile to accommodate the new use. So over time, you start with a, let's say, $1,000 monthly limit before your profile changes. Then you go up to a $1,000 to $5,000 limit. Then there's a $5,000 to $10,000 profile, and then $10,000 to $25,000. And again, it's averaged over 6 months. So if, for example, you get $1,200 on your $1,000 profile account, if the next month you only receive $800, you'll be in the clear. Their computers figure it out, and they're only looking for 6-month periods where you significantly deviate from the original profile that they set up. Again, today in talking about banking, we covered opening an account for a foreigner, which oftentimes can be much easier and much more effective if you do so in the name of your corporation. We talked about the paperwork you're going to need to open an account, that personería jurídica, and the financial documents, and the acta constitutiva of your corporation. We talked about online banking and how it's pretty different than other places in the rest of the world. And finally, we covered the financial profile oversight system that the Costa Rican government uses. Any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to email me at matt@cbtamarindo.com. Thank you very much for watching today. Have a great Thanksgiving for those who are enjoying themselves, and take care. Hasta luego.